advice for someone already comment on how good the food was, so thank you for that. Chemistry, Hood River Distillers, and Timberline Vodka for our October punch. It's delicious. I highly recommend it. Laurelwood Brewing and our friends from For Bitter and For Worse and Good Wolf for providing drinks. Feel free to grab food and drinks throughout the event. You are all adults and we trust you. Thank you to all the 2023 OEN general sponsors who you can see on the slide. Yes, big thank you. Y'all helped us hit our sponsorship goal for general sponsors. Give yourselves a round of applause. And then lastly, a big thanks to everyone who's an OEN member. If you enjoy these programs, please consider joining. You can get there with this QR code. If you're not sure if you're a member, you can follow up with me. I can check in our system. You can find me at Cara, C-A-R-A, at OEN.org. Or if you can't remember that, you can find me at info, I-N-F-O, at OEN.org. All right, we are delighted to have Buchhalter as a sponsor for our September, October, and December PubTalks. And Ernie Usma has appropriately stayed close, and he's going to come up and say a few words. Yay.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ernie. It's been a while since I've done this. I'm Ernie Usma from Buchhalter. It's a law firm here in Portland. We're actually based all over the West, 12 different cities now, and 400 lawyers, so we do just about everything. Although our team here in Portland that I work with, we've been doing startup work for 30 years now and work with many companies from everything from formation, fundraising, all the way through the sale of the company. So that's what we do. And we're getting re-involved in OEN, excited to be here. And anyway, welcome everyone.
Thank you. Thank you for the nicest man I know. And I had to make fun of him a little bit because I invited him to speak last month and he was like sitting up there where Dave Marcos is. And I was like, hey, how you gonna get down here? So that's what we've got going on. All right. Thank you to our venue host, Fresh Consulting, John Bartawa. Would you like to say a few words? Where are you?
That?
No.
Actually, usually when people don't use the microphone, the people in the back can't hear you because it needs factors. So do use that. All right. Well, I don't have a lot to say. John Burkell with Fresh Consulting. Fresh has this lovely office. If you want to rent a desk, talk to me. If you want to host an event, talk to me. If you don't want to do those things, talk to me. Otherwise, have a great night.
Thank you, John. Fresh Consulting. And then a very big thank you to my guests and Newmark as the 2023 PubTalk presenting sponsors. Mike, would you like to come and say a few words?
Wear a witch's hat, I'll come talk. Deal. Hello, everybody. I'm Michael Gatz. I'm with Newmark into commercial real estate, and I help companies find their office space. Quite a few in this room, so it's good to see everybody. If you don't know this, absolutely love OEN. They actually let me on the board this year, which jury's out if that's a good decision or not, but it's been a lot of fun to help this group. And through this, I've met a lot of great people as I look around the room. A ton of you in here tonight. And right before this, I just had a drink with a gentleman named Michael Nguyen, who's right up here. So real quick, is anybody in this room involved in the clean tech world, either entrepreneur or no people? Anyone? Okay, all right. Well, you should all, John, go talk to Michael at some point tonight. He's a great person to know, great connector, knows a lot of people, has had 2-3 exits. 2 exits. And he's just a good dude. So as I said, there's a lot of great people in this room, too many to name, but we should all meet each other. We should all connect. We should all say hi. If I don't know you, come say hi. Maybe John and I will talk to you after this. So thank you. Thank you all for coming. Good to see everybody.
Mike is definitely the funniest person that we have on our board of directors. No offense to everybody else. All right. Thank you as well, Beth Nguyen from / for spearheading our partnership on tonight's events. Beth will speak in a little while. She is our moderator. I also have to just give Beth a unsolicited kudos. She is our treasurer of our board of directors and probably spends more time on the phone with me than anyone else answering for any text messages and allows this organization to run the way that it does. So thank you, Beth, for that. Mary holds our board chair since we're giving a shout out. She also spends a lot of time on the front, because she doesn't use mine. I wear a pitches hat, I'm very vulnerable. Okay, and now on to our favorite part of Pub Talks. I actually love these. We brought them back this year. Our 5-minute pitches. It's a chance for entrepreneurs to share their business with the community and building off the momentum from last month's Oregon Angel Food or Oregon AF Marketplace. We have 2 great food and beverage companies pitching tonight. First, fabulously coordinated. We've got Shelly Elkovich from Perpetrator. And for worse. For better, for worse, no N. Okay, there you go. Oh, you probably need it. Yep. Let me see if I can. All right. There we go. Hey, I'm Shelly Elkovich, founder for Better for Worse. We make complex cocktails with love, not alcohol. So I'm going to give you the quick story for our likely catalyst event that launched the brand. Started with a whale watching trip on the Salish Sea. Beautiful day. Picture this: flat water, blue skies, pod of orcas, including baby whales, so close we could hear them. It was magical. However, I had a rare neurological reaction to the boat trip. It's got a fancy French name, Mal de Guacamole. It messed up my balance, and I broke up with booze in order to protect my brain. And that's when I really understood how few options there were for people who were abstaining. So I took everything I knew from years of experience working with herbs and as a cocktail enthusiast, made my own recipes, and went out to pop-ups, pouring hundreds and hundreds of samples, meticulously recording people's feedback. When I got something I liked, I sent those recipes, not the recipes, I sent samples to some folks at the Out Here New York Times, and they really liked them. So fast forward to today, after launching in spring of 2020, we've done over $1 million in total sales, and we've got some great prestigious accounts. I'm very proud of our tiny bootstrapping team. So you probably have heard, many people are reducing their alcohol consumption, and moderation is a real thing right now. In fact, the demand, consumer demand is so strong that it's created an entire new category within the alcoholic beverage industry, the non-alcoholic beverage, adult non-alcoholic beverage. Newsflash, you cannot drink alcohol. So the market really is growing. You can see over $500 million was spent just in retail sales last year. 32% of adults are non-alc buyers. Again, the adult non-alc, we're not talking about water and soda. And 82% of category purchasers also consume alcohol. The problem is, it's difficult to abstain, and our culture is alcohol centric. Also, most mocktails are still full of sugar, contain lab-derived ingredients, make health claims that may not deliver, and sometimes taste inferior to the spirits that they mimic. So we're looking at the unaddressed need for people who are label reading foodies who want to apply the same values to their clean food as they do to their drinks. For Better for Worse has the cleanest label in the adult non-alc category. No off-the-shelf extracts, no natural flavors. You can see it all there. We use a reverse bootlegging process that we have. It's our own proprietary process that Jeff over there designed. So we were able to get really bold, complex flavor without using these lab-derived ingredients. We have 4 expressions we're pouring taste today, and take a can if you'd like. Together, they have garnered 18 international medals and trophies to date, including Best RTD Producer of the Year, and Best Ethical Brands. So I'm also really proud of the cult following that we built in this short time on a shoestring budget, no PR budget, no marketing spend in terms of PR in general, and very tiny marketing spend in general. You can see it's a little cut off there, but our email open rate is more than double the industry average for our direct-to-consumer customers. We've surveyed our customers. We know our fans are primarily women ages 25 to 60. They tend to be well-educated, wellness-minded people who are willing to spend more for quality.
And those are pictures of some of our actual customers, actually. Oh, this does not look good. Okay. It looks different on my PowerPoint. So what I'm going to show you here is that we're about 223 doors. There's a nice map on my PowerPoint. And we've basically grown our points of distribution 88% over the last year. We were forced to start with DSC because we launched in spring of 2020 and retail was not the place for new emerging categories and new emerging brands. But now that sampling is open, we're doing quite well. So we are raising $750K to build our team, support upcoming launches. We're going to be in Amazon. I mean, they've got the palette. We're just waiting to go through their channels at this point. We are in Whole Foods Pacific Northwest, and I just had an amazing meeting today where they said they love us. They will get us in as quickly as possible to however many markets we can handle. We just got to figure out the distribution. So that's my task for the next couple months. We are looking at hiring a sales director. I've got someone in mind who is, she's one of the early employees at one of the most successful non-alc brands in the country. Is that my camera? Oh, okay, there we go. You can see what we're doing here. Profitable by Q3 of next year, working our way to Mass and Club. We're a family business. We've got some great mentors, Diageo, Pepsi, built. Join the party, ask me questions if you're interested in investment, and please take a hand. Thanks.
That was nice. I loved it. And I guess, Shelley, sorry, you had to deal with the ghosts of the PowerPoint. It's very scary. You showed a lot of resilience. I like that. It's good for an entrepreneur. All right. And rounding out our pitches is the amazing team from Goodwolf.
Hello, everybody. I'm the owner of Goodwolf, and we have been around for a few years now, and we make probiotic refreshers. Easiest way to describe it is it's like kombucha, but it actually tastes good. So the name comes from the story that each person has two wolves inside of us, a good wolf and a bad wolf, and they're fighting for your heart. The one that wins is the one that you feed, so feed your good wolf. And that's why we make delicious functional beverages to help people feed their good wolves. People more than ever, as Shelley was mentioning, are trying to be healthier, whether that's alcohol or finding things that are good for their gut, immune system, etc. And a lot of them are going towards drinks or supplements. The problem with health drinks is that they just really usually don't taste good. But they have a lot of added sugar, artificial sweeteners, hidden caffeine, things of that nature. And obviously, we know popping pills isn't fun. Adding 4 big probiotic pills to your daily regimen, not something anybody really wants to do. So the solution is Goodwolf probiotic refreshers. It's a gut healthy probiotic drink with no caffeine, no artificial sweeteners, no funky vinegar taste. It's just really smooth, bold, and refreshing. The base for our drinks is called Water Keeper. It's similar, it's a culture similar to kombucha, but it just has a much smoother taste, but with all those probiotic benefits. We've got 4 flagship flavors: hibiscus bloom, ginger yuzu, pina colada, and marionberry. Sampling over there. Please come and grab a sample of this if you haven't already. And we have a couple seasonals coming out. Dipping into the mocktail scene with a prebiotic mocktail. The market trend. So the global probiotic drink market is $11 million. It's huge. It's going to double in the next 10 years. The US has the majority of that in cities like on the West Coast, like Portland, Seattle, and down in Southern California, are definitely are the bigger cities that it's a larger drink market. Excuse me. So being in Portland, we're really set up locationally to take advantage of the drink market and the growth. Our team, we've got sales manager, brewery manager, brand ambassador, sales advisor, and a pending partnership with an owner of a local beverage brand, and a pending partnership with Portland Thorns soccer player, which is we're pretty excited about. Our biggest strength is that we own our own brewery. We didn't pay somebody to make the flavors. We don't pay people to come up with the formulations, to co-pack them. We do it all ourselves. And so that really takes out a lot of the questions of supply chain. We can be more nimble. We can do seasonals. We can come up with little product lines very quickly, affordably. We've now produced over 250,000 cans. We're local in Northeast, and we've got a max output right now of about 30,000 cans a month we can produce. Sales channels and traction. We're selling about 10,000 cans a month. We've got some distributors, a nice national distributor, DPI, who we haven't sent them out into the national world yet. We're still just staying local for now, pacing our distribution. We're also onboarding with Point Blank, who's a beer distributor, to get into on-premise sales. It's in here. In about 80 retail locations, we also do direct to consumer home deliveries and subscriptions. And tons of farmers markets and events. And we're excited to be onboarding with Whole Foods as well. So right now, last year, just to put in perspective, we did 108,000 in sales. This year, we're on track to do over double that, about $250,000 in sales. And we're looking to just double that year over year. If you want to talk more specifics on how we're going to do that, I'd love to talk. And our fundraising goal of 200,000, valuation of $2 million with a minimum investment of 10,000. And just, yeah, again, reach out to me if you'd like to talk investment or any other sort of partnership. I'd love to meet you. Have a great rest of your evening. Thank you.
Good job, Nathan. I like those growth numbers too. Okay, that like tees us up really well for me to bring up Beth Nguyen from Geffen Measured/Moreau/. Yeah, we're both in here. This is actually my favorite pub talk of the year because we do tell the horror stories, and then what winds up happening is like you hear all the good things that came out of the scary part. So I'm excited to see what we learned today.
Yeah. Are we good? Can you hear me? Okay. I'm going to introduce myself. Yeah. Oh, okay. I missed that. Sorry, they shared this through Gmail and like, I don't know, my computer doesn't work very much. So I missed the Moreau show. I'm Beth. I'm with we're a branded division of Geffen Measured, which is an accounting firm that's been here in Portland for about 90 years. We started in 2020, a little over 3 years ago, and we do outsource controller, bookkeeping, CFO services, mostly Oregon-based companies, startup services, tech. We also have a big real estate practice. So I am also board treasurer and happy to be here to introduce the panelists. So first we've got Hwang from RIF, and I apologize if I mess up anybody's name, please correct me.
Yeah.
Awesome. And Tisson Mathew at SkyPoint Cloud, CEO at SkyPoint Cloud. And sorry, Alan is the Chief Growth Officer at RIF. And last we've got Amina Moreau, CEO at Radious. Did I miss any first names of these so I don't butcher it going forward?
Tisson, right?
Tisson?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Thank you. Well done.
Thank you so much. Sorry about that. So could we start with just a little introduction, a little background from each of you, and then we'll get into some questions.
Yeah, happy to start. My chat. Alan Hwang, Chief Growth Officer at RIF. My background, a little bit of a funky background. Started out working at a couple of different agencies in Portland, so creative, web, mobile. And alongside that, was foolish enough to think I could have a couple of startups. So had an Instagram brand before Instagram brands were a thing. So got some traction there, utilized that equipment to do screen printing for Nike, and alongside worked at a couple of agencies being client facing. Basically came to the path where I realized as I was going to college and working at an agency, if I had one client who would pay my entire month's salary, I would only have to work like 2 hours a week. So that sounds great. It still sounds great. And so I got a client and quit. And that was the start of my agency. It's called ACH Marketing. My initials. I'm not creative. Other people are. Had that agency for 2.5 years full time. Sold it to another one. Worked there for 3.5 years, helping them scale. A huge background in B2C sales generation and B2B generation. So a lot of scaling startups. And pitched my existing team to join the team at Geffen and what Riff could be. So Riff is a full service agency that has a background in building and growing startups. We have 75% service based, 25% venture. So we build and grow our own startups as well as service other clients.
Hi, everyone. Yep, hello. I'm Amina, and I call myself a chronic entrepreneur. I'm very intentional about that wording, because you do have to be a little bit touched in the head to choose this lifestyle repeatedly. I co-built, I should say, my first startup in a dorm room. So similar sort of story. My life was prescribed for me. I was supposed to become a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer, as in many families. But then I realized that this hobby that I enjoyed, I could make money at it. And when there was a decision to be made around either going to grad school and beyond or med school, did I want to do that, or did I want to keep doing this thing that was already making me money that I loved and was growing? And I defied the family orders and decided to go down that path. And that company still exists today, 20 or so years later. And it ended up incubating a bunch of other startup ideas because for whatever reason, one company wasn't enough. And we saw market gaps and wanted to fill them. And we were problem solvers and we wanted to put something good into the world. And so I'm working on my 5th company now. The 4 previous ones were all in creative services space, so we have that in common. First company was a photography and filmmaking company that ended up incubating a couple of marketplaces. One of them was footage licensing, so stock footage company that ended up being acquired by a content aggregator in Asia. And then the other one, the other marketplace was a music licensing company that actually was acquired by Marmoset Music. If there are any musicians that are also Portlanders in the world, in the room and in the world. And the project that I'm working on now, the startup, is called Radious. And in fact, whether you know it or not, you are currently sitting in a Radious space. So John, thank you very much for being a customer. John listed this office space and this very room here, as well as several others, on our platform to rent it out on a fractional basis to other companies that may not have offices anymore, but that need a place to get together with their teams on an occasional basis. That is not the core of what we do, however. The core of what we do is actually convert homes into workspaces. So if you have a dining room with a nice table, spend $50 on a whiteboard, and all of a sudden you've got a collaborative brainstorm space. And the beauty of that is that you may have neighbors that need to get out of their houses and see human beings in person again. So very excited to be building that and to be here today.
Can you guys hear me? All right. Okay, so I'll tell you what I'm doing right now. So I was with that Mary Hall Incorporated, a company right before COVID, and then COVID happened. So we started as so just Mathew, founder, CEO of SkyPoint Cloud. By the way, we are dropping cloud and going with AI. So it's currently happening. I'll give you that story as well. So started right before COVID, and as a healthcare data management company, primarily in analytics, and So I was the CTO of Cambria Health right before that. So I worked with private equity before. So started the company. Now we have about 50 employees, 3.5 years of business, about 25 people here. We just got a new office. Everybody's moving back into that lifetime work. Just out Poland, which is beautiful, but only 10 or 20% occupied. But we are kind of dominating the space right now. And we got 25 employees in Bangalore, so 2 offices. So we do generative AI for healthcare. So where you can use English language to talk to your healthcare data, like EHRs, and do analysis and things like that. So what we also do for unstructured data interaction, so you can actually check for compliance and things like that. So we started pivoted into AI about a year ago. About 90 customers. So we are more in the growth stage, I would say. That's my background. Well, before that, I started my first company based on a PubTalk at OEN probably 15 years ago. Nice. Yeah, it was what a story. Yeah, so I was working as a research scientist at Intel. So it was 2004 to 2006. So I had no clue about entrepreneurship, nothing at all. I get a paycheck, have a great job, go home, right? So I came to one of these, and then I ran into a guy and said, "Hey, this PubTalk thing, you do a 5-minute pitch, somebody gives you money to start your own company." I had no clue. I come from India, and this doesn't happen, So you really work for a paycheck, So yeah, I got inspiration from there, and I started an e-commerce software company. And he said, "I will give you like a few $1,000s to build an e-commerce website." It was in 2006, 2007. I was when Shopify just came along. So we grew into about 800 customers, sold that business in 2012, and I worked in Amazon. So yeah, a lot of good stories, but this is an avenue I got to know as an engineer, completely new here, that actually you could get capital to start your own business. So,
Awesome. Thank you all. So first question of the night, what was the scariest part of starting any of your businesses? Because all of you have multiple or involved in multiple at this point. So yeah, scariest part.
Oh, you got my God. All right. You want to start? Okay. So I think the first company, when I started, I had literally no clue what I was doing. I was just about to leave Intel. I was like, I should do this thing. And I called my dad. He was in the Air Force for like 15 years, retired. He never had a business. Our entire family had no business background. I said, I'm leaving Intel to do e-commerce. I was like, what the hell is that? Well, you're leaving a really good job. You actually talk to your manager. What's the money? I had not much money because Intel stock tanked right after the dot-com bubble. It went from, I think when I started it was $70 some, and when I left it was 13. So it wasn't like a story. So yeah, so I started, and I was the first customer we got, like myself, just me, and another guy I kind of borrowed. I didn't know what an invoice was, and so I said, "Why don't you give me a check?" So I didn't know, like, I had to send an invoice to get paid. That was, then probably the customer would be like, "What are you going to take this guy?" So it was like, does the software work? Does it do the thing? So there was this website called Nanotech Supplies. That was the first website we kind of got. They were selling nanotechnology parts to nanotech companies. Yeah, that was the first. That was a really horror story. I was like, I'm not going to get paid because I didn't know how to do an invoice. I Googled, got something from Word, made an invoice, sent it to him, and it was like, hey. Then I had to keep track of the Excel. That was great.
I can.
So this is going way back. This is not the most recent one. This is like the very first time. I think part of it was that I was going against the grain and that there were expectations. Also share your lack of expertise, that because when we were starting that like photo and filmmaking company. We knew photography and filmmaking, and even that we only knew a little bit. We were faking it until we made it. We knew nothing about business because we were artists, and nobody on the team knew anything about business. So we had to fake that a lot and reinvent the wheel quite a bit. But I remember one very specific moment that was very, very scary, and it was when, for whatever reason, we had a lot of business coming in. We were doing really well on the marketing and sales front. And so we were not wanting for business. In fact, like we didn't have time to sleep. And it was a good problem to have, but it was unsustainable. But we still weren't bringing in enough money to hire people to help. And so we were in this cycle where, like, if we brought on more people, we would have to take on additional projects to afford them, and then it would just spiral from there. And so my business partner at the time and I, we sat down, we looked at our pricing, and we were already charging above industry average. It wasn't expensive, but it wasn't right in the middle either. And we looked at our numbers and we said to ourselves, we have to double our pricing overnight. And we did. We published it on our website. And then we didn't sleep the whole night because we're like, we're going out of business. Nobody's going to hire us ever again. And this is just, it's done. And the next morning we woke up, like after an hour and a half of sleep, and we were still panicked. But then we turned on our computers and looked at our email, and there was an inquiry. And now we looked at each other. We're like, well, maybe they didn't see the pricing. Maybe they're tire kickers. Who knows? And then we got on the call with them, and not only did they see our pricing, they wanted our most expensive package and then some. And we had spent the whole night panicking, like this was all down the tubes. And it was a huge lesson in, one, just like believing in your product, and also that pricing is really subjective. But now also, I, as a person who's learned about business, I also understand the value of doublet goods, which are those things like the expensive purse and stuff that people want it because it's expensive, not necessarily because usually, demand goes up as prices go down, but doublet goods act in the opposite direction. And what we had on our hands, we were now selling a doublet good where it was a status symbol to hire us, which has its own pitfalls. We learned a lot in that moment, and that not only could we do something that was sustainable for our business and we could keep going, but that we could do so better than ever before. And it gave us a huge injection of self-belief. And I think that is one thing that holds a lot of people back from pursuing their dreams, is a lack of self-belief. And so I think one of the questions later on is going to be like, what can you do to start your own thing? Is just like start with that belief. Or find it.
Yeah, I think fortunate in the way that my brain worked at the time. I was 20 when I first started my first business. Was like dollar in, more dollars out is like, it's good business. It's just so fortunate in a couple of things. One, not knowing any better than that. So that's kind of always the way that I've operated until I learned about this crazy thing, Silicon Valley, rounds of investing, return on investment, awards, all that kind of stuff. Later in my career, so it wasn't really scary for me to start out a business. So it was even with the Instagram brands, there's a do good component, kind of like Tom's, but every dollar in needed a dollar out. The scary part came when I had to hire people. And I was like, I have the confidence in myself to like pay my own expenses. Now, like, this person has like their own expenses, I have to pay that. And it's funny because over time, and within this last iteration, I would say, as Griff joined the team, there's been more and more due diligence, the more heads there are to take care of. Because everybody who's on the team is somebody that you have to take care of. So starting out was easy. Just go after something that you're passionate about. It makes dollars make sense. It's the scaling portion and taking not necessarily the liability, but I'll say liability of like people that are trusting you to take care of them. That's probably the scariest part. And transitioned me from like the big thinker visionary over into like the maybe more of the middle range of, is this actually going to work or is this not going to work?
Yeah. Anything that's gotten, like, has it gotten less scary over time for any of you? You think if you were to start on a business, or for those of you that have started multiple businesses?
I can start, that's fine. I wouldn't necessarily say less scary. I think the biggest lesson that I've learned that's helped me have confidence, and something I still say today, is everybody's getting paid to learn. It's one thing. I think going into the room as a 26-year-old marketing consultant, getting flown out to McAfee to teach them about their marketing, and Nike to tell them that their app is working. That's kind of like, oh, they don't know what's going on either. I'm gonna figure it out. Having the confidence of just being able to say, like, I can figure this out. I think has always been the driving force behind my entrepreneurship. Even down to taking on super unqualified to take on a financial issue on a Shopify website for a brand. Literally lived at home and did this website on my mom's couch, and that they're now the second largest beef jerky brand in America. Google who that is. I'm an NDA. There's no clients, but again, it's like I was like, oh, I can figure this out, not knowing how large the company was at the time. So, not necessarily less scary, but just having the confidence of like, oh, I figured it out before, I'll figure it out again.
I'll echo that from a slightly different lens. So that film company, a lot of what we did was tell company stories. And every project was in a different industry. So one week we might be working with a company in pharma, and then the next week it could be clean tech, and then the next week it could be in manufacturing of some sort. And my job was to tell them how to tell their story better, which meant that I had to have some understanding of how all of these industries work and how all of their audiences thought about the industry. And so over 10 or 15 years that I was doing that, I got really comfortable being the least educated person in the room. I knew the least. And yet they were still hiring me as the expert. And at the beginning, I was like, same sort of thing, right? Like, okay, they don't know, so it's okay if I don't know, maybe a little bit. But we ended up treating it like, you are subject matter experts in this. I'm a subject matter in that. And we can work together as a team to be better than the sum of our parts. And I think just after that many years of having continuous discomfort, you become comfortable in it. And so, to your point, I don't think that it's actually any less. It's not that the situations are less scary, it's that I'm less scared. Because I now have I have this whole career worth of precedent that I may be the least knowledgeable person in the room, but I can learn it, and I can learn it faster than most because I have a lot of practice at it. Which means, and as a startup founder, you live in unknowns. Like every moment of every day, you have more unknowns than you have knowns. And if that is tremendously uncomfortable for you, then startup life is maybe not for you right now. It could be later, because we can all have a growth mindset. But getting comfortable with being uncomfortable is a huge asset. This is something that I've learned.
Well, how many of you raised outside capital, pitching? A couple of people, right? Oh my gosh. Okay, so I have kind of continuation of what gets easier. So my first company, I don't think anybody would put any money into that. Like I guess completely an engineer, unproven product, so really you have to prove yourself to get any fund. So it's kind of super scary. There were days that after I left my company, I was living at about $2 a day. So I would buy stacks of so there's a thing called ragu. I've seen that in Segway. Okay, so I used to buy those. So, and then get frying bread or something like that. It's just a stack of slices of bread. That was my food the whole week. So I could live a couple of dollars a day, have a roommate, apartment, so to really drive this cost equation down, like way down. So which means that if you are producing intellectual thing on top of it at a very low cost, and that can scale like a Shopify competitor that we're building. So our cost basis is very low, right? So because I'm not technically eating or what is that? Right? But who cares? We're 25, right? So and you can keep rolling, right? So I think that motion taught me a lot of lessons on how to do something from the ground up, even if you don't have any food or whatever. So yeah, so I think the fundraising is like, okay, you're on, need capital, but you definitely need something that I'm building software. I'm a software engineer, I can write code. So my cost base is really low. So, but you can also find other crazy engineers who is ready to join. That is even the scariest one. Like, I don't have any money, dude. I'm building the next best thing. You want to go crazy with me, quit your job? I was like, maybe I'll do part time. That's moonlight on this, right? Can you give me a little sweat equity, or whenever you sell something, can you give me some? So essentially, you can get other fellow travelers who are crazy like yourself. So I think that taught me a lesson, early on, because I didn't take external capital, and then in the future, so after I sold my company, so we're pretty large equity capital rounds. So right after Cambia, so we raised almost $600 million in capital. So with SkyPoint, we raised about $10 to $12 million. That was before the seed round. So essentially going from so even Mary asked me that seed. so essentially, if you kind of know what the ground bottom looks like, nothing really scares you to pitch your idea and have guts to move forward with it. But if you have no idea what really a startup, there was a thing in OEN called startups, right? Yeah. So I used to go to this, so it's really a thing where you got no money to eat, so I still building a startup, right? So as you kind of get more further down, I feel like if you know how to do something from the ground up, your ability to raise capital and the guts that you have in front of investors is going to magnify itself. And then somebody who's really popular puts money in, and a whole bunch of others join. It's a complete network effect. It all depends on who comes in first. So it becomes less scarier. So when I started SkyPoint, I was like, what's the bottom looks like? I definitely know what it looks like. So what is there to lose? Almost nothing, right? So that becomes less scarier.
Serious resilience over here. Have you ever had a past decision come back to haunt? Tell us more.
I think the number one is, this is the biggest mess up that probably I would look back and regret. So we built this e-commerce software package. We're competing with Shopify, and there's another company called Demandware. So I got a call from Demandware CEO. They sold for $5 million to Salesforce a couple of years ago. And they're like, hey, you guys have a great shipping product. So we compare shipping prices. We want to integrate that into Demandware. And hey, this thing called Shopify is taking off. You guys are doing well, but you should create a cloud version of your software. And I was like, I'm making a hell of a lot of money. So on-premise licenses, right? We're profitable. We're making a great amount of money. So because of my background of being very risk averse, the cost base is low, I said, so I think our engineers asked for like $2 or $3 million to build a cloud version of our product, and I declined that completely. I said, no, Shopify is going to go down. The cloud is just happening. Who is paying $50? Our thing was 100,000. And who's paying the $50? Big little businesses. Who cares about this? I think they were doing snowboarding here or something. I was like, this is moving on rails. This is not a real product. So I did not fund the cloud version of our product, and probably, I don't know. If we are definitely a much bigger scale, competed with them lower pricing. Yeah, horrible decision. The engineers can do it. We can build this. We have all the stuff. Then no, we'll stay on premise. We'll sell this licenses. Make more money. That didn't go that way. You know, just push ahead.
So one thing I've learned about myself is that I am my father's daughter. I am really good at being critical of people. And knowing this about myself, the pendulum, I let the pendulum overswing to the other direction. I give people too many chances. And so over the course of not just my career, but my life, because it's a personal thing too, I tried to find that optimal middle ground where I'm just kind of pragmatic. And towards the beginning of my career, when there was a client or a partner that came along with a bunch of red flags and my gut was telling me, do not partner with this person, I didn't listen because that pendulum was way over here. It's like, oh no, you're being too critical. You gotta just give them a chance and let's give this a shot. And I regretted it every single time. And in hindsight, I could pinpoint all of those red flags, but looking forward ahead, I had a lot of trouble because I didn't trust that gut. And you know, Malcolm Gladwell's Blink, when I read it, I was like, oh yeah, okay, now I'm going to trust my gut. And then a bunch of research came out about how like that's not true at all. And then you have to look at the data and actually really analyze. And there's a sweet spot, I'm sure. But what I've learned about myself is that my gut, when it comes to that thing, is pretty bang on. And so while the business that I'm in now is definitely it's definitely partner driven. It's the first one that's also fueled by venture capital. And I've been taking that lesson really, really hard, really strongly into the fundraising journey, because when you let somebody onto your cap table, like you're marrying them. And there can be some red flags. And there have been some red flags, and I am very thankful that I have not yet, at least not to my knowledge, made any bad decisions on that front, and that I'm very, very proud to have the people that we have on our cap table. First person to ever invest was a woman. We have people of color. We have a great diversity of people on our cap table that we're really, really proud of. And fingers crossed that it all stays really good.
I don't know if I can talk. Not building a shop like that. Yeah, we're talking about professional, right? Yeah, kind of following the people train. I think the bottom line is just always go with your guts. So hiring team. I think the biggest one is probably the first business that I spun out. My early 20s. It's kind of like, oh, like I can do this, I can do that, like you're cool, come do this thing, and do this thing, and just having a group of people that really didn't follow through with anything. It's a really good team learning experience to where the reason the company shut down was because the return on investment for me personally, as the single driver fueling 5 other people, wasn't worth it. So I just pursued the thing that made more sense. That's something that I think about even now during hiring processes of where I'll definitely let my team run with decision making, but it'll be a gut feeling about somebody. They have all the credentials, they have everything that they want, but it just doesn't feel like the right decision. And giving the team room to fail. But I've never had one of those where I went against my gut pan out. On the flip side of that, also knowing my expertise and where I lie as an entrepreneur, and knowing that I'll be within the visionary entrepreneur and like the implementer, kind of that entrepreneur where I need somebody that can implement and I need somebody that can be visionary. I think from previous experiences, being open to, I won't go into too much details, but the visionary aspect of chasing big ideas and being able to pursue some of those because they could lead to opportunities like building a Shopify competitor. Sorry, I was too restful.
I like it. Let's talk about ghosting. We've all been ghosted, but in the professional world, being ghosted by investors, being ghosted by vendors, employees. Has it happened to you? Where did you get your?
I think the 1 month out of that is getting ghosted by somebody that loses money. Yeah, when it comes to, again, service-based business, I'll use that as an example. So the two biggest ghostings that probably are hard. One is service-based having a partner or contractor or team member not show up. The amount of late nights I've had covering teamwork or contractor work. So if you're starting out, we're very contractor-based. It's a lot of them. And obviously that burns a couple of bridges. But that goes into other ethos of how to build a team, and just being able to know what you're doing and being able to actually dig in instead of starting an idea with no background, essentially. And then yeah, just the ghosting, I think of like the cash flows. That has to be the scariest thing. You're like, I have things to do, but we're waiting on a net 90 or something like that with a big order to fulfill.
Yeah, I'm dealing with a situation like that right now, actually. I mean, I think when you're fundraising, you're always dealing with some level of that. But on the partnership side, we were this close to inking a deal with a partner that would have been effectively a channel partnership with another company, and we would have been. It was going to be a very, very lucrative for them and for us, and also just a strategic partnership to amplify our respective businesses. And multiple phone calls back and forth. We're talking about the details. Everything is looking good, and like we're ready to pull the trigger. It's not like it's just we're just at the beginning stages. We're like right there, and at this point, we had other people kind of lined up as potential partners as well in that sphere, but we had back-burnered those conversations because we only need one, and then just nothing. Just the guy just disappears. And I'm the sort of person, again, I want to give people the benefit of the doubt. And so I follow up, and then I follow up, and then a month and a half later, there's 7 follow-ups by email, by phone, by voicemail, by text, by LinkedIn, and then starting to CC colleagues of his, and just nothing. So then the final email is, you really didn't seem like the type of person to just ghost somebody like in the middle of what seemed like a really friendly conversation. And so this must be a technical issue. And just nothing. And so I'm waiting to see whether this is actually a technical issue or if I would just dodged a bullet. But lesson learned there is keep all those other relationships warm until the deal is inked and everything is like hyper solid. Don't string people along, but have a plan B, a plan C, and a plan F if you need one, because unfortunately people are flakier than we want them to be, and you have to have contingency plans.
Yeah, and so many good stories. Yeah, a couple of times it's happened to me. One was like our main engineer quitting right before Christmas holidays and just completely disappearing, like literally gone. You can't find the guy. So that happens with engineers. So I learned the hard lesson. It's like engineers disappear. Can't find them. Then he showed up. Yeah, he showed up 3 months later at Microsoft. He was hiding somewhere and then he popped. Like we always say, fast paycheck, none of that, right? So that was like, so that was one hard lesson. Like for me as an engineer myself, it's like you guys ghost a lot, So they ghost for various reasons. They quit, sometimes they don't want to show up, or they just disappeared, figure out a way so that they're actually there, not there. So not trusting engineers, even I'm myself an engineer, we have a software company. So I have really good plans in place of engineers ghosting or not doing their work, So that's a hard lesson. So the parties, you know.
It's easier to ghost than to tell someone no.
Yeah.
And so I see it a lot in various realms, whether it's talking to investors or, it's a way to keep the door open just in case you're wrong. But the thing is that in so many cases, it actually closes the door because it ruins the relationship versus being honest and providing valuable feedback.
So that is very true. Then the other is like impromptu quitting, which is kind of like what, like, I just don't feel like working here anymore. Well, personally, something happened to you, or I heard that a couple of months ago, but I just don't want to be here. And I'm like, I leave, like, why you make a phone call? So then at the end of the call, you sound like a jerk. It's like, well, you call me, so then you're quitting, and then I ask you to leave, then how can I be a jerk? So it doesn't make any sense. So a lot of times, disappearance or like impromptu, some sort of an emotional thing happened. But a lot of times there is some background of got some better job or something like that that is really good. So having to your point, going to there to have plans in place of not relying on that one person. So the worst case, which hasn't happened to me, is small founders quitting, like so that is the worst, where you can't really plan for another co-founder, right? Or like a key investor not following through, that kind of drags you along to the very end. Oh, there'll be follow-on money coming in and all of that. Then the guy's gone, right? So those kind of situations are much more harder to deal with.
We've got like 5 minutes till Q&A, right? Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna combine a couple of questions a little bit. Starting your own business, there's a lot of going it alone and kind of feeling like there's no net to catch you, which I think can sort of lead to being consumed by your work. And how do you manage that? How do you maintain, balance in your life when you're not like a salaried people who gets a lot more? You don't.
You manage that by being consumed by your work. You want to start?
So again, because I have so much experience in doing this multiple times in different industries, I've learned so much about myself, and I've decided to live my life in chapters. So I think sometimes when this question is asked, I hear a lot of answers around, oh, you gotta just try to have it all, or you have to figure out where you're happy compromising, and it feels like a blanket statement, like whatever you choose, you have to do for the rest of your life. And I've chosen to live my life in 5 to 10 year chapters. And prior to starting Radious 3 years ago-ish, I had life-work balance, not even work-life balance. I had really good, and I recognize how lucky I was, how privileged the position I was in, because I had sold a couple of companies and I had the freedom to play tennis at 2 p.m. in the afternoon and still do some work. But I could put my emphasis into things that were less worky and more lifey, if there is such a thing. But now I'm in startup mode, and that whole chronic disease that I have, and it is completely unbalanced in terms of I have committed to going be it 10%, if it's quantifiable, I'm committed to going 10% beyond what is sustainable long term from a health perspective. Because how some people, if they fail at something, they want to fall back on, oh, well, I didn't really try with everything that I had, and so that's my excuse for it not working. I'm the opposite. And if I look back at anything in my life, especially something like this, Radious is so impeccably timed with such incredible market opportunity that, if I don't give it my all and it doesn't work, I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life. And so I know that the level of work-life balance that I have right now is not healthy, and it's not going to be sustainable for 20 years, but it will be sustainable through acquisition, or through IPO, or through some level of exit that we are going to have. And that's this chapter. And then once that chapter is done, maybe I'll go to the beach. Maybe I'll get on another channel talking about other horror stories that have happened, because we're talking about our past today, but inevitably there are going to be some challenges ahead for all of us, and we just have to weather them. But, yeah, chapters that's the answer for me.
Yeah, I think so. The two questions. The going in alone, again, I think starting out when it was just me, it's a lot easier than going in with a team support. Because I have the confidence of like, oh yeah, like it's just me that's gonna impact. If this fails, it's just me. It's back to my mom's house. But when there's a team, I think there's a lot more to consider within it. So again, like my personality moves into like being more risk adverse in that scenario. Still risk tolerant, but a little bit more risk adverse in decision making. And that work-life balance portion of it, I can tell I'm such an analytical person because you say chapters. I'm like, oh, that's such a better way to say it. But the way that I function is just being goal driven. So I would say each goal is probably a chapter to where there needs to be an end goal that I'm working toward. And as long as that goal makes sense and I'm on that right path through like my impact filters, personally and professionally, then it makes sense. So any endeavor we take on at RIF, whether it's a startup or a client or a new team member, it goes through a series of impact filters that needs to go to our end goal of what we're trying to do. And that's how I do decision making. I think within my last role, I was at a place where I could probably hang out a lot more, and I decided to leave that to pursue something that I thought would have more impacts. Like I'm very aware building a full service agency is the worst way to scale an agency. It's literally the opposite of what I've done in the past 10 years of my life. But the reason for that is because we want to be able to partner with good startups and be able to have some time and energy to invest into sweat equity, because the bigger exit equals more dollars and everybody wins at the end. And we also want to build and launch our own startups. We have a community function, what we do to support the community in Bend, Vancouver, and Big Fork, Hounsville, Montana. Those are 3 hubs. And we also have a nonprofit function where the nonprofit rate that we operate at is basically a break even. And none of that is possible without the ability to do things full service in-house. So when I'm looking at my impact filters and what drives me from a goal perspective, the end goal is to make an impact in the community, be able to put my people marketing powers to good, even though I love getting startups around the funding, supporting great organizations to even better. And we want to have our own startups, then this needs to happen. So I think going back to your chapter thing, that's great. We can steal that, put it on LinkedIn tomorrow. But yeah, always be goal driven. I think that's the work-life balance thing where, it'll consume a lot of your time, but as long as it makes sense within the time frame and it's still compounding into the end goal. That's my driving factor.
Can I quickly comment before I hand this to you? The goal part of it, I think, is huge, and I kind of want to steal that from you too. So, yeah, we will. Yeah. I'll post that here. And you can post it.
Great.
For me, I would, for my personal journey, I'd frame it as purpose. So the goals being linked to a greater purpose. And one of the things that I love about building Radious is that it takes cars off roads. It gives people time back with their families because they're not commuting to city centers. It is helping working professionals feel more fulfilled and having a greater sense of job satisfaction. Like there's so much social and environmental good to the thing that we're building that on the hardest days, like the mornings where I'm like, I cannot even get out of bed, let alone do another day because it's so hard. Because it's hard. Like some days, right? This is 4 stories. This is all about venting, right? Okay. It's so hard, right? And so if you don't believe fully in the thing that you're doing and feel like you're going, like it's a part of you, like this whole work-life balance is a myth, because if you love what you do and you truly believe in it, then it's a part of your life. And that helps, and certainly having a safety net, like live at my mom's house.
Probably take me back.
And, yeah, so to both of your points, what is work-life balance? I think it's more of a personal thing than anything that can be generalized. I think, I don't know. I have no idea who came up with 8 hours per day work or 10 hours per day or 4-day work week or 3. I have no idea where the versions of these are. And
200 years ago.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think we are all kind of in that maybe the simulation. I don't know. Of this 8 hours of work day. So to me, I think figuring out physically you have to be active. For me personally, I try to balance physical. I play basketball 4 to 5 minutes a week, so that gives me competitiveness. You got to be in a good shape. Otherwise, a 17-year-old yelling at you, it's like, "Fuck the ball, dude!" It's like, then so you can have an offense. It's like, okay, I lost the game because it's an idiot. So essentially, having some sort of an outlet that really, it could be group exercise or hiking, or it doesn't have to be basketball. Something that takes you out of this work thing will give you enough energy to focus on work when you're back at it. So I think that's something that I kind of learned the hard way, because I was just killing myself, just continuing on, because I can't read anything the next day because 4 hours of sleep. So essentially that cycle was continuing. And then when you have, a significant other and, situations like that, they're like, "You're not here." I was like, okay, so work is consuming your entire life. And if they are not understanding it, so you create so much conflict, and then you have fights and like, "Oh, you gotta do this, I can't do that." And that creates more problems with life than, so there's a lot of personal decisions that I think entrepreneurs have to make during startups that are really important ones. So that I feel like it's harder than people think it is, because everybody wants to promote entrepreneurs and all of that. But when you fail a couple of times or things are not going in a direction, it's like the guy works all the time, not making enough money, not showing up. Actually, it looks horrible. So all 5 characters that you don't want in person. It's standing right in front of you. It's like, what do we do with this thing, right? So like, okay, I'm leaving. So then you're like, okay, I lost. So then the cycle continues. So so it's interesting that I some people have figured it out. I guess there's a lot of talk about what work-life harmony is. I worked at Amazon for a couple of years. Bezos has this work-life harmony thing. I don't know what that is. whatever it is what's happening there. And then Elon has a completely different, thinking about it. And Satya Nadella is, it's amazing, and he has another version of it. So the different leaders have kind of talk about their balance where they are right now, but I don't think any of them got there by doing what they're doing right now. That's what I. Their grounding is much different than what they're talking about.
So you've got basketball 4 to 5 days a week. I've got tennis 4 to 5 days a week. What is your escape?
Sit on nonprofit boards.
Thanks. Well, thanks for putting up with my questions. We'll open it out to the audience now. Yeah.
Okay, Tisson, you didn't talk about this, but you talked about co-founders quitting. I just need to know what was after that. I've never heard of that. Like, what's the situation where a co-founder quits?
Yeah, it hasn't happened to me personally, but I've had situations where I invested in companies or we were part of the investment groups where the co-founders got into. So I can give you 2 real examples in the world where this happens, and it's usually a couple, husband and wife, or partners, they're personally related, could be two brothers, or two sisters, or whatever. They're personally related, something happened in their personal life, and then this thing exploded in business. So one either disappears or quits, or so there is a lot of stories around downside your business, whatever. But it could work out in a good way too. That's one. The second is typically most of the co-founders either work in the same company or they have some common interest or they're friends. So, and in the same way, so they kind of can run into personal issues, typically impacting their professional relationship. So, and this happened, this is the investor's worst nightmare. It's co-founders leaving, quitting, because you don't, what is a backup plan? Because you entirely funded this thing based on two people's ideas and they have two different roles, they have, this is huge. Yeah, so I think having co-founders are great, but this is what we have to really, really watch out for. Is something happening in our relationship. And it does happen. So.
I'll pick up on that too, from a personal story. Like, my brother and I started a business super early in my career. I quit after 2.5 years. It was the best thing to happen for our relationship. We didn't get along at all. Now he's running a $1 million business. I got my business here. So, sometimes it's just, it wasn't connected to you. We did that for 2.5 years. Now we've done like year 10. So it's great. We know that just happens. Sometimes it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I love what you were saying about finding your passion and having that sort of thinking through the tough times. Start from the point where you sold your previous companies and you're playing tennis to the point where you work, the concept kind of came together like this and passionate about this. Like, what was that journey like? What did you pick up along the way? How did you find it? What questions you were asking yourself?
Did everybody hear the question? Okay, that's somewhat urgent. So what was the process like transitioning from like previous businesses to this one here and finding the passion in between? It was a really left turn. I never thought that I would be in real estate. Like, I come from filmmaking and storytelling, consulting, and like psychology of persuasion type of stuff, and not all of a sudden, or real estate, or is it residential, or what? And it's not like it was planned. It was that in the middle of the lockdowns in 2020, I can't just sit still and just wait for the world to reopen. And when I see a problem, I want to fix it. And I had time to devote to thinking about it. And so I'll just really quickly run through the origin story for Radious. I was having brunch with my partner, and we were talking about our Airbnb unit that is in the lower level of our house that we had to keep shut down during the lockdowns because it wasn't safe to host. And then when we were allowed to reopen, we still didn't feel comfortable doing so because, well, laundry. Washing a stranger's linens during the pandemic, nope, not for us. But it covers 2/3 of our mortgage every month, that Airbnb. And so in the beginning, it started out as a very personal problem that we're solving just for our family. How can we reopen this thing in a way that feels safe? And the only way we could think of to get rid of laundry was to get rid of the overnight component. But there are no platforms in the short-term rental industry that even exist for day-only rentals. And it occurred to us that all of our neighbors are in lockdowns, kids are home from school, dogs are barking, kids are screaming. How does a working parent get anything done in that environment? So we thought, well, why don't we just buy a better desk, upgrade the Wi-Fi, and invite our neighbors to start co-working with us. Or like not even co-working with us, just like book it for themselves and have a solo escape. But that's really what was safest at the time. And our little experiment went gangbusters, both with working professionals and our hosting friends who also hosted an Airbnb. And we started doing some market research and listening to what companies really wanted. And what companies want post-pandemic is to be together in person somehow, even if they no longer have real estate, or even if their real estate is too small to accommodate their people. It's the number one thing they want. And that's when the purpose started coming in. Because I don't care about real estate per se, but I do care about helping people feel more fulfilled in their lives, which is why I am so thrilled to be here today, you know, sharing transparently the good and the bad of my career, because if it helps anybody here feel a little bit more empowered to chase after their dreams, then mission accomplished for me. I can, you know, finish my drink and go home feeling happy. And that's basically that's my purpose. I just want to help people feel more fulfilled in their lives. And out of all the companies that I've built, this one has the greatest market potential to help the most people and to decarbonize the workforce situation. And that's the other thing too. I actually care about other species way more than ours. I think they're way better for the planet than we are. And so it's not like I just woke up one day and I was like, ooh, this is my purpose. It kind of snuck up on me a little bit. Sometimes you get lucky. But also understanding like the things that you care about means that you can more readily recognize when those opportunities come along so you don't miss them.
Good timing.
Good timing. Oh my God. Okay, let me just say one more thing. I am the type of person who likes to think that she has agency over the outcomes of her life. I do not like to admit how much luck and timing have to do with success in a business and as startup founders, but oh my goodness, like the timing for this is so good. So how can I not drop everything and just chase after it? Yeah.
I have a quick question for you guys. Failure, I feel like is a part of everyone that gets in business. Do you guys have any what would you say is like the biggest horror story that you guys experienced that would maybe test you or hesitate being an entrepreneur?
Like something that happened to us or to other people?
Either or, just like what's a horror story that like would have made you like second guess choosing an entrepreneur? Like if you had gone a couple of years.
I think divorce is a pretty bad one. You're very successful, business, and nothing happens. You think like 100 times after. So.
We mentioned before my personality being very much like dollar in, multiple dollars out, being the end goal. I mean, I think the amount of startups I've worked with, even myself personally, but at like a much smaller scale, like over investing into something you think it's going to work, and not getting a return out of that inventory is probably a horror story for a lot of people over COVID. And I have quite a few clients that kind of fell into that. Probably industry specific, but also like overcomplicating marketing and over investing in marketing. It's another horror story of we have a client in the generative AI space, spent $3.5 million a year on funding. They had $150 million in funding for Series C from like Honeywell, GE, a couple of big names. $3.5 million marketing budget, 0 return on investment. So we went in working with them, and it was we either generate revenue and we show our investors that we have traction, or we are out of business at the end of the year. I worked with them for 18 months, always thinking the marketing team made 0 sense, and we're just doing very basic work. Had the opportunity to dig in with them, cut their $3.5 million to $750,000, and the first month of simplifying their marketing stack, they had enough traction to get funding to go through another 1.5 years. So they had 2 years of runway instead of 6 months. So that kind of stuff keeps me up at night. And it's not in my company. It's mine.
I'll answer mine with a caveat that I don't think that anything could turn me off of entrepreneurship. But I've also never had a real job before. I haven't really ever done this. So I'm biased. But I will say that now that I've been fundraising, I understand the VC landscape a lot better than the previous companies, which were all bootstrapped before. Is that when investors do their thing, they invest in tens, hundreds of startups with the expectation that a small proportion of them are going to make it big, and then more than pay for all the failures, which actually represent the majority. And I see the investors in the room nodding their heads. Right, so it's a numbers game, and you've got to place your bets, but you're also recognizing that most of those bets are going to be wrong. As a startup founder, you are making far fewer bets, and you need the success rate to be the inverse of that. And so you are defying the mathematical, the probability of basically reality by doing your own thing. So from a statistical perspective, it actually makes no sense. It's like something like 94% of startups fail. So crazy people like us are the ones that think that we can defy the odds. And so some of us have. Some of us in the room, right? We've been successful, we've seen, but we've also had failures. You're right, failure is an inherent part of the journey. And I could wax poetic on why I'm frustrated by the whole fail often movement, and we can talk one-on-one about a better way to think about failure. But
Fail fast.
yeah, fail fast, yes, but also like if you say that to somebody that doesn't have a whole lot of self-confidence, you're not actually giving them any tools on how to handle that failure. So I think we have to be very careful with giving that advice and reading the room before we give it and giving it different depending on who we're talking to.
Yeah, last, hopefully, I maybe try to wrap probably. I appreciate that you shared the 90% of startups fail. There's obviously a lot of people that work within the startup environment for these companies. What is your approach to your internal employees when situations are unknown or there's a potential bad outcome on the horizon and you have people's futures at stake? What is your approach in that, and what do you kind of manage those certain times?
I feel really strongly about this, and I see you looking at me, so I'll just take it first. But I would love to hear from you guys because I'd love to learn from you if you're doing something differently from me. But for me personally, as a leader that is working with a fantastic team that is overly committed, is transparency. Anybody on the team can ask what our bank balance is at any time, how much money came in this week, how much money we spent this week, what the challenges are. It is a fine line between oversharing and worrying people unnecessarily versus being honest. And I also try to strike a balance with my personal well-being. And when I'm having a bad day, I share that with the team so that they know why I'm being bitchy. And they get it and they don't take it personally. And I let them be bitchy with me if they're having a bad day. But we can also celebrate. And if I may celebrate a moment with you today. So today was a really good day. So we launched in Portland about a year and a half ago, expanded to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, about a year later. And today we announced our expansion to the Bay Area. We were in Business Insider, and it has been all over the interwebs. And it's a big deal for us today. And our team was rejoicing. We took that moment, but we also recognize that the challenges that we had yesterday still exist. So it's about taking those wins when you have them. And the one thing that I learned from 3 decades or more of playing competitive tennis is that like you have to play 1 point at a time. If something bad happened in the previous point, you got to learn from it instantly, but then forget about it within 5 seconds, and then keep moving forward. You've got to celebrate the wins more than the losses. But if you can do it transparently as a team, that goes really long way. And one last thing: the reason that transparency matters so much is because going back to the being uncomfortable with unknowns, not everybody is, and usually your hires are not necessarily entrepreneurs. So they have a different tolerance for unknowns. They're not like you necessarily. And the more notes you can give them, like the bank account balance and all of that stuff, the more control people feel over their outcomes and the outcomes of the company, and feel more empowered to make bigger strides together as a team.
Congratulations. I read that article today after tonight. I knew you were going to know the answer too. Yeah, transparency I think is huge. I'm a big component in building growth plans for everybody on my team that I'm hands-on with. I've had fortunate enough to have multiple people that follow me from 3 different companies, and we still work together, which is great. And the transparency piece is I used to shield my team from finances, like how we're doing. If I was having a bitchy day too. And it turned out to have more trust in the team and allow them to help with problem solving. My ego's not that big, I don't know everything, so it's been super helpful. And it really helps identify who the team members are. I probably over talked about team today. People here, I guess, I'm an analyst person. But it really has been like, there are people on the team that are gonna be 9-to-5ers. That's great. If you want work-life balance, pursue that. Here's how we'll take care of you. The people that are in it and they want to make a difference in like if things are going bad or there's a stressful time, they'll really dig in. Those are the people that will also reap the benefits within the company as we see success, how we can. So doubling down on the transparency piece and then building good plans for the team. Just in general, because if you give people the option to opt out and support them, it's still a good experience for them.
We're almost ready to wrap up,
Yep.
right? Yeah, this is the same thing. I think for me so far, and we have about 50 people right now. I think for me, the number one thing is self-sustaining operationally. So you will not have to do this one-way thing at all. So you're building a company to a place where it's completely self-sustaining. So it means that the team that you have is really in control of the destiny, unless something crazy changes in the market. So there is other uncontrollable variables where you have capital, you don't have enough revenue to support your operation. Then you have to have a lot of transparency with the team. Otherwise, we are in a mode where we are all about generating more gross margin and getting better data so we can have more growth. And everybody knows those numbers. But in terms of what we have in our balance sheet, our cap table, all of those stuff doesn't matter for us now. So, and once you reach that, people have a confidence that we control the outcome and we control the destiny of this company. Right? So.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much. It's great to have you.
All right, I always get a minute to wrap up and thank everyone. One more round of applause for everyone. I learned a couple of things tonight. I always learn a lot. Number one, I apparently learned that we should bring startups back and we should feed hungry entrepreneurs. Thank you for that, Tisson. I also had the opportunity to present to the Portland Metro Chamber about what OEN does. And we talk about our mission in our big fancy words that I know the board members are like, please use those. We worked on those for months. But the reality is, like, we're the organization that connects the founders, the funders, and the folks that help them grow their business together. And I made a comment, like, without our lawyers and our accountants and our commercial real estate and our bankers, like, we really don't like thrive as an entrepreneurial community. And then I finished and I was like, does anyone have any questions? And one of the accounting firm people raised their hand and they're like, no one ever really mentions their accountant. I'm like, no, they do. And now I can go back and say, in fact, I have heard people start businesses and don't know what an invoice is. So if you think they don't need an accountant, you are vastly mistaken. So anything Mary, so his lawyer was saying, so there you go. That's all I have. I am always inspired by the folks that are up here. I understand their pain. We are here to cheerlead you. We always have to thank our team, Riley, who does this effortlessly. Alex, who helps raise the money for us. And I would be remiss if I did not thank the husbands of OEN who are all in the room, Corey, Christian, and Jim, who are constantly our support group. They move a lot of fun stuff for free. Our next big event is right up here at the Oregon Entrepreneurship Awards. It's on Thursday, November 16th at the Armory in Northwest Portland. Yes, get excited. The event starts at 5. Tickets are on sale now. The people spoke. The people said they wanted a lot of networking. So plan on networking, a shorter program than PubTalk, and more networking. And then we'll be back here at Fresh on Wednesday, December 13th. For our final PubTalk of the year, the wrap party. I wish we were wrapping, we're not, we're just wrapping up the year, but I will do my best. I don't know, Vanilla Ice impression, who knows, never know what I'm gonna do up here at Radious. Mad at me. So join us for a reflective conversation with regional entrepreneurs as they review past year of business and consider the opportunities for growth in Oregon and Southwest Washington in the coming year. Come celebrate another year of pursuing your entrepreneurial dreams. I brought the witch's hat. I will wear a absolutely hideous holiday sweater. I hope you will join me. Wear my best friend from Impossible Machine. Chris, are you still here? All right, up there. He will have this on. Last year it lit up. It was magical. And I will give you about 7 minutes, and then you have to go home because you can't network here anymore. It's not actually warm. Good night. Riley is being very generous, and she says if you want to grab some food, there are take-home containers. So there you go. Support local entrepreneurs in our food and beverage industry.